video we're going to continue our lessons on factoring trinomials. We started out by factoring by grouping, then we factored by grouping using trinomials whose lead coefficient were 1, and we did something like this. So we said if we had something like x squared plus 5x plus 6, that we could take the lead coefficient of the first term, which just happened to be 1, multiply that times the last coefficient, otherwise known as c, which happens to be 6, so 1 times 6 is 6, and we're looking for the factors of 6 that add up to be 5. So those numbers would be 2 and 3. So we're going to break up our middle term using the numbers that we just found. So we're going to group the first two terms, and we're going to group the last two terms, pull out our common factor out of each one of the parentheses, and we see that our common factor is x plus 3. So pulling out our x plus 3, what's left is x plus 2. So this was pretty easy in the sense that when we consider that our first coefficient was 1, we were really just looking for the factors of the last coefficient that wind up equaling our middle term. So we're going to do some a little bit more difficult problems. We're going to do problems where our lead coefficient is not 1. So we're going to have to do a little bit more thinking about it. So let's try our first one. So let's try 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. So our lead coefficient of 3 is being multiplied times our final coefficient of negative 5, and that gives us negative 15. So we're looking for the factors of negative 15 that add up to be negative 2. How about negative 5 and positive 3? And once again, I said it in our previous video, but I'll say it again. If you are very good with your multiplication tables, you're going to be very glad because we're going to be using those extensively. So let's use the two magic numbers that we just found to break up our middle term. So we're going to have 3x squared minus 3x, plus 3x minus 5x minus 5. So let's group the first two. And when we group the last two, I need a sign out in front, so I'm going to put that negative sign out front, and that's going to change the sign of everything inside the parentheses. So let's factor out our greatest common factor. So our greatest common factor here is going to be x plus 1. So pulling out our x plus 1, we are left with 3x minus 5. Okay, let's try another one. So let's say that we had 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. We take our 3 times our 4. That gives us 12. So we're looking for the factors of 12 that add up to be negative 8. So I'm thinking negative 6 and negative 2. So I'm going to use those two numbers to break up our middle term. And once again, we're going to group our terms. You notice here we have a minus sign, so I'm going to bring that minus sign down, and that's going to change this sign in here. Okay. So now let's factor out our common factors. Pulling out our greatest common factor of x minus 2. What's left? Well, 3x minus 2. Okay. Let's try 7x squared plus 53x, getting some large numbers here, plus 28. So we're going to multiply 7 times 28, and let's see, so 7 times 20 is 140, plus 7 times 8 is 56. So 140 and 56 give us 196. So I'm looking for the factors of 196 that add up to be 53. So let's factor 196 and see if we can discover the factors. So as an even number, 2 will go into 196, will go 98 times. And 2 itself is an even number, so it's going to give us 2 times 49. Well, if we multiplied the 2 times the 2, that would give us 4. So 4 times 49 is going to give us our 196. So we're looking at 4 and 49. So I'm going to use those numbers to break up my middle term. So in grouping the first two and the last two, pull out our common factors. So our GCF is x plus 7. And when we pull out our x plus 7, what's left? 7x plus 4. Okay. So let's try another one. So if we had 9x squared plus 66x plus 21. Now I notice here that we have a greatest common factor, so let's pull out our GCF. Well, our GCF here would be 3. And what does that leave us? That leaves us 3x squared plus 22x plus 7. So now we're going to go 3 times 7. So that gives us 21. So the factors of 21 that add up to be 22 are going to be 1 and 21. So we make sure to carry down our 3. Let's group our first two and I'll group our last two. And then factor out our common term. Making sure to bring down our 3. Okay. So our greatest common factor then is 3x plus 1. We're going to pull that out. And what's left? X plus 7. So let's try another one. So I notice we can factor a negative sign out of every one of these terms. So let's do that. Let's factor a negative 1 out. That's going to make it look a little bit nicer for us. So now we have the factors of 6 times 25, which gives us 150. And those factors have to add up to be 25. So I'm thinking 10 and 15. Now let's factor out our common factors. So our common factor then was 3x plus 5, and what's left behind is the 2x plus 5. So let's take a look at another one. It's a little bit more involved. So if we have 16x squared plus 60x minus 100. Well, once again, we can pull out a greatest common factor. So I think the largest number that will go into 16, 60, and 100 would be 4. So let's pull out a 4. Now what does that leave us? Well, it leaves us 4x squared plus 15x minus 25. So we're going to have the factors of 4 times negative 25, which is negative 100. So the factors of negative 100 that add up to be positive 15. So how about positive 20 and negative 5? So bringing down our 4. Now we're going to factor out our greatest common factors. That's the parentheses. So our greatest common factor then would be 4x minus 5. And what's left behind will be x plus 5. So that's a quick look at factoring by grouping. And as you can see, no matter how difficult the problems become, if we look for a little while, we can usually find the factors that we need. So thank you for watching.